terms of photo and video, manual focusing has always been a fear of mine. And that's why today, I'm going fully manual. What's up everybody, Austin Felix here and welcome back to another one. It's day 5 of Vlogmas and I got 5 tips for you today on shooting manual. Not too long ago I went to the city shooting and I told myself, today, no autofocus. Everything is strictly manual focus. Challenge accepted. I've always shot with autofocus since the day I got autofocus. And this is simply because I relied on my camera and my lens 100% more than I relied on myself. Autofocusing provided me with pinpoint accuracy, and I just didn't trust myself looking through the viewfinder to catch what was in and what wasn't in focus, and I didn't trust myself looking at the small 2-inch LCD display. I left it up to the camera and the lens to do the job for me. I heard that green little beep, and I was good to go. The autofocus tracking was way better than I was at tracking moving subjects. Now this is all 100% true, but I think manual focusing is a must-have skill if you're shooting photo or video, and here's why. You ever been shooting with autofocus and then something goes in or out the frame and then out of nowhere your camera just decides that it wants to jump focus really quick, forward and backward. Well, that's called hunting. Now, if you're shooting a wedding, hunting is the last thing that you want to happen at that very moment that you need to catch that kiss because you only got one shot at this, right? Autofocusing is gonna let you down there. Now, if you have beginner gear, using autofocusing may be a nightmare. My Canon T3i with my 18 to 55mm kit lens is horrible at autofocusing. That thing will hunt for about 4 or 5 seconds straight until it locks focus. On the other hand, if you have a higher end camera, that means you have tons of autofocusing settings. This can definitely be intimidating when you're trying to use autofocus for the first time. And let's say you do have all these autofocus settings. You have to be mindful when you're shooting to adjust your settings for what you're shooting at all times. If I set my camera up for autofocusing on a non-moving subject, a talking head, an interview, or whatnot, those settings are completely different from me going to film a sport event or cars or anything fast or in motion. There are times where you may need to do both in the same day. If you forget to switch your settings back, it can throw off your entire shoot. Manual focus, on the other hand, allows you greater control when shooting your photos and videos, allowing you to create exactly what you want when you want it. With that being said, here are my 5 tips on day 5 of Vlogmas on shooting with manual focus. Tip number 1, you want to maintain the same focusing distance between you and your subject. You being the camera. If your camera is here and your subject is 4 feet away and you set your focus, if your subject takes a step closer, you take a step back. You guys have to move forward and backward, side to side, within the same distance. Even if you're going around your subject, make sure you maintain that 4 feet around your subject. Tip number 2, shoot with higher apertures. I know we all like to shoot with the lowest aperture possible on our lens, that 2.8, that 1.8, and get that nice blurry background. If you just started with manual focusing and you're having a hard time keeping your subject in focus, if you increase your f-stop, you increase your focusing depth. At 1.8, you have a very shallow focusing depth. But if you go up to, let's say, 5.6 or even all the way up to f22, you are increasing your focusing depth, allowing you room for error. Tip number 3, do not be afraid to turn that focusing ring. Inching and slightly turning the focusing ring, not really changing anything when I'm shooting and losing that moment and losing that shot. I realized, hey, I'm just gonna turn this thing until I find out which way it's supposed to go. And in doing that, I learned to control the manual focusing a lot better. And that leads right into tip number 4, learning your turning direction while focusing. I had a lot of mistakes where I stepped closer to a subject. I wasn't sure if I'm supposed to turn my focusing ring to the left or to the right. Once I got a hang of it and I forced myself to learn, if I get closer, turn this direction. If I move further away, turn the opposite direction. Over time, it'll be like muscle memory and you won't even notice that you're doing it while you're shooting. This one is gonna be a very big help, especially when you're trying to track a subject. It's day 5 of Vlogmas, y'all. Here's tip number 5, using a monitor when you're recording. If you have, or if you don't have, or if you're planning to get a monitor, it could be a major plus when you're looking to do manual focusing. Using a monitor larger than the LCD display on your camera allows you a larger viewing area for determining what is and what isn't in focus. Now go into your monitor settings, see if you see a setting for focus peaking, turn that on, and that's the cheat code right there. You see in real time exactly what is and what isn't in focus, and it can't get no better than that. After forcing myself to shoot manual and doing it again and again, I started to get the hang of it, and now today, interchangeably, I go between manual focus and autofocus, and it works out great. If this helped you out today, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I got more content coming for you guys. I'm Austin Felix. Peace.